Welcome to Off the Supply Chain. If the supply chain is all about cooperative competition, so is our show. Joining me right now is Peter Rentschler. He is the CEO of Carrier Direct. Came all the way from Chicago. Ooh. Thank you for being here, Peter.
Of course.
Give the viewer a little bit of background about what Carrier Direct is.
Sure. So we're a consulting firm entirely focused on the logistics and transportation space. We do typical strategy management consulting, organization structure, process improvement, but then also custom software development. We fundamentally believe that any business strategy is incomplete without technology strategy, and likewise, technology decisions need to be made to support business user needs. And so we work with 3PLs, freight brokerages, trucking companies, logistics companies, railroads, et cetera, entirely focused on transportation.
Today's show focus is freight brokerages. And how have you changed since you've gotten into the industry? How have you seen things change with how brokerages work?
Sure, so it's really been amazing. I mean, I'd say even in the last 2 to 3 years, there's been a tangible change in how people actually look at technology in the space. And historically it was, hey, how do we know enough about this to not be afraid of it? And now it's becoming, we realize that this can help us change our business, so how do we leverage technology? What we're seeing people miss is that they also have to change their operating model. Throwing technology into an existing business model doesn't necessarily fix a problem. And so that's one of the big changes that we've seen. Of course, you've got companies like Uber Freight and Convoy coming into the space. We're really seeing those folks commoditize and kind of centralize all of the small carrier capacity. And then that kind of coupled with some of the other investments in technology and operating model is really driving a lot of automation across the board.
You mentioned Convoy. Is there an advantage to being 100% like a digital freight brokerage? Is there an advantage to that, or do you still need the human interaction?
Of course. I mean, there's advantage to being digital as much as you possibly can. The reality is this business and freight itself is a business of exceptions. Exceptions are the rule, and if you can only automate so much, so there's certainly a certain level of human interaction that has to happen. I mean, even I'm a frequent Uber user, and I still have interactions with customer service all the time.
Talk about human interaction. Do drivers still want that human interaction? They still want someone on the other end of the phone?
Yeah, it's a great question. So something we're hearing a lot from our customers and even from the drivers that we talk to is that they're afraid of a lot of the technology that's coming into play. Some of them are more comfortable with it than others. I think that you can also correlate it to a gap in younger drivers in the space who are more comfortable with technology as a whole. Our experience has been that the businesses the brokerages that fully focus on driver experience, even if and sell technology as a part of that, have been the most successful.
Talk about who have you seen having success in this space? You've mentioned Convoy, you mentioned Uber Freight. Are there others who are really taken over and run with the technology of being a digital freight brokerage? Yeah,
so in terms of being fully digital freight brokerages, I mean, Convoy and Uber Freight are the two big ones. What we've been really interested in are seeing some of the legacy players, some of the asset players like J.B. Hunt and Werner and Schneider investing heavily in technology to automate parts of their business. They're almost trying to say, hey, we're a trucking company. We know what it's like to be a driver. We also have been operating brokerages and logistics businesses for years. And on top of all of that, we're now bringing in some of this new technology into the fold to help automate the parts of the business that we can to offer better service to our customers, better experience with our drivers, and an overall lower cost, but also more competitive profit margins.
We're going to continue this conversation on the show. You're a panelist on the show today, so good luck.
Thanks.
Now to our host, Chad Prevost.
Joining us today on Brokering Both Sides of the Equation, Michael Caney has been a brokerage leader for the past 15 years, from building cradle-to-grave teams, sales operations and technology, HR, employee development, regional branch development, and third-party consulting. He now serves as EVP of Sonar Sales at FreightWaves. Donnie Gilbert has spent over 15 years in the trucking industry with a specialty in the spot markets, where over 70% of the loads he booked were scheduled for same-day pickup or for pickup the next morning. Donnie also has a background working as a customer service representative with contracted rates on dry van and reefer loads. And Peter Rentschler is the CEO of Carrier Direct, a consulting and custom software development firm working exclusively with transportation companies. Carrier Direct works with clients to break through revenue plateaus. Peter has helped design and execute growth strategies for freight brokerages of all sizes, including J.B. Hunt, Werner, FedEx, and Blue Grace Logistics. Here are the rules of the game. Each guest gets 40 seconds to respond with a 30-second follow-up. And of course, this is the supply chain show of competitive banter, so we keep score. When you hear this sound, you have 10 seconds. When you hear this sound, you are out of time. This sound means you get a point, and this sound means you lose a point. Let's get started. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chad.
Great to have you here. While market volatility created the opportunity for brokers to enter the trucking space in the 1950s and 60s, volatility is becoming more predictable and manageable through historical data and data-driven analytical tools like FreightWaves sonar. Many say if you're not getting smarter, leaner, and more efficient, your days in freight are numbered. Michael, will 2020 be the final year of business for hundreds, if not thousands, of freight brokerages?
No, I don't think it's going to be the final year for a lot of freight brokerages. I do think we're going to see a lot of them shrink, though, Chad, right? So for freight brokerages to remain viable that aren't backed by lots of private equity money, they're going to have to really focus on what their niche is, what they know, and what they can be smart about. So I don't think they're going to go away, but I think you're going to see a lot of retooling in terms of how they do business. The kind of all things to all people brokerage will go away. That business model will go away.
What do you think, Donnie?
All right, I believe they will. This is going to be a year that we're going to lose, hundreds and or thousands of brokers, and it's going to be a lot of those smaller guys, a lot of the guys that have all their eggs in one basket, and that are not really prone to upgrading to these newer technologies. So as we go through 2020, these people are probably in a kind of a financial situation right now because of what happened in 2019. A lot of margins were compressed, so here they're sitting, and they did maybe okay or just kind of barely made it through 2019. And as we enter 2020, these are the ones that are going to be pushed out of the industry because they failed to follow the newer technologies that are coming in.
Interesting, we have two very different takes. What do you think, Peter?
I happen to be somewhere in the middle. I disagree with both to some extent. So, big believer that in the current state, we're not actually going to see a lot of businesses fail. I agree with Michael that there may be some shrinking. However, we actually think that the smaller brokerages who can better control overhead costs and the controlled costs will last a little bit longer. The middle market businesses do need to focus on their niche, but they also need to change the customer experience. People need to reimagine how they actually look at servicing their customers, and that's how they get stickier as a provider.
Well, will technology be the great equalizer that ensures the survival of the small brokerages in the future? How will technology help them?
I think it's a yes and no answer. Technology can be an equalizer. It can also be a huge distraction. And what ends up happening is small and medium-sized businesses buy technology without actually understanding how it's going to impact their operating model. So if they can evolve their operating model, their people, their process, and how they service their customers to match and take advantage of the new technology that they're putting in place, yes. If not, then they will fail.
What do you think, Donnie?
All right, so technology, yes, that's going to help out some, but really it's the personal experience. That's what brought the smaller brokers in really to the 80s and the 90s. It was hard getting communication out of your large trucking companies, and when you work with somebody on the phone with them, you're able to talk with them, ask questions, and work with them. That's what really brought the smaller brokerage into play and have kept them into play is that experience, and that's something that will never be beaten in this industry.
Wow, interesting. What do you think, Michael? Technology, great equalizer opportunity or not?
I don't know about equalizer. I do think, I'm with Peter in that I think, like I said before, brokers are going to have to really hone in on what their offering is, their customer experience. They're going to have to define who they want to be in the marketplace for employees, and using technology to do that and become unique in the industry is what that will do. I don't know that it'll equalize anything, but it'll allow companies to become more specific and competitive in their own right.
Right, well, fantastic first round. After one competitive round of banter, we have Michael with 6, Donnie with 7, and Peter with 6. One thing is beyond debate. Tech is here and the supply chain will never be the same. Adopt a strategy to digitize or die. The next level questions focus on exactly what those digital strategies are and who will carry the torch into the next decade. Upstart brokerages or the incumbents. Donnie, will the largest brokerages benefit the most from the technology renaissance, or will well-capitalized insurgents continue to be born and grow rapidly?
All right, so yes, the large companies are going to benefit from their investments into technology. But one thing you have to look at in this, in the logistics world, is brokerage is just a small part of the total logistics and the billions and billions of dollars that are spent. So you're going to have those small startups still come jumping in. But the advantage they're going to have is they're going to be able to see these large companies and copy their technologies that they've designed and spent all this money investing in. They're going to be able to copy it and save those expenses and jump straight in and here run the lower overhead and take advantage of the extra room there is. There's plenty of room for large and small to grow in the logistics world.
Okay, still plenty of room. What do you think, Peter?
So the well-capitalized insurgents have the value of cash behind them. They also have to build liquidity on both sides of the equation. They have to bring in customers and they have to actually support capacity. Likewise, they can move faster. We fundamentally believe that whoever's going to win are the businesses who can move the fastest, who can actually adopt an agile methodology towards their business. That's something that legacy incumbents haven't proven an ability to do. They've been slow to adopt technology. It's taken too long to operationalize it, and specifically, they're not actually taking full value of the tech.
What do you think, Michael?
Yeah, I agree. The large legacy incumbents, particularly the public ones, are going to have a harder time adapting and, more importantly, adopting, right? Because they're encumbered by these kind of cultures in terms of how people already use the software. Some of them have really decentralized business models, which make technology harder to adopt. I think the smaller to mid-market players are going to be able to adopt innovative off-the-shelf technology rather than, I think, 10 years ago, you had to build your own. And there's stuff out there that can really automate your process today.
So, well, you're kind of answering the question already, but what is the most advantageous position to be in? Is it an asset-based 3PL like a JB Hunt, an ICS, or a Werner, or a more of a pure non-asset-based 3PL like an Echo or a CH Robinson?
I think it depends on your model, the way you run it, and how fast you can run. There's still a lot of value in the marketplace for, do you have trucks, do you have an asset? But sometimes those models are slow. They're slower to move, they're slower to make decisions because they have all of these just capital intense assets that they're worried about. Mm-hmm. We see speed with true asset light providers more than we do with big trucking companies.
Okay, what do you think, Peter?
So we're very bullish on the asset, non-asset combo mix. So I fundamentally believe that the JB Hunt, ICS, and Werners are in a better position than the Echoes and CH Robinsons. They have the multimodal capabilities. They're able to sell their assets. There's a reason why Uber Freight, Convoy, Arrive Logistics are buying trailer pools and putting those out into the market. These big providers know how to manage those assets and see them over time, and can actually offer a better enterprise customer experience.
Interesting. Donnie, final word.
I'm split on this. I think, if you're a smaller company right now starting off, a non-asset brokerage would probably be the best way to go. It's got your lowest fixed cost starting out. And as you grow that, as you get to a certain point, maybe then start bringing in assets. And then as you bring in those assets, which your trucks are expensive. As you bring those assets in, you have a lot of options for those assets already to run, and you can start building out, contracted lanes for those loads. But maybe first is your smaller non-asset, and then start bringing them in.
Interesting. Okay, fantastic information on what I think everybody's wanting to know on these subjects. And at the end of 2 rounds of competitive banter, it is Michael with 11, Donnie with 13, and Peter with 15. All right, and now for the lightning round, everybody's favorite time where your lungs start burning and you separate yourself from the pack. This time we're going to be playing Wishful Thinking or Truck Yeah. Digital freight matching company Convoy said it's achieved a trucking industry first. 100% automated brokering of loads to carriers, including matching and pricing on lanes in top freight markets. Wishful thinking or truck yeah?
Wishful thinking, certainly. Freight is a business of exceptions. And even in the instance of using Uber on a day-to-day basis, I still have to interact with a customer support person. You're going to continue to see exceptions come into play, which will force them to have to keep people. Now, they may be able to automate some of the basic.
That's okay, you can finish your thought. But that is, Donnie, what do you think? Wishful thinking or truck yeah?
Wishful thinking. I mean, you got the easy lanes, you got those covers, congratulations. It's the hard lanes that really count. Can you get those covered using the automated process?
Okay, good questions, Michael.
Yeah, absolutely wishful thinking. They're coming off of a soft 2018 and they're able to make some big claims, but it's absolutely wishful thinking. I'm with Peter. There's always exceptions. You always have to have people.
Okay. Shelly Simpson recently said at FreightWaves Live in Chicago about being an industry incumbent that is also innovating. We actually don't think we can do it ourselves. There won't be one winner inside this space. We have to transform our shippers, brokers, and carriers. We have to move forward together for everyone to benefit. Michael, is that wishful thinking or truck yeah?
Both, right? I think you're asking a lot of entrenched players to think that way, but that is the way forward. I mean, truck yeah, I guess I would say.
Okay, so we have an opinion. Donnie, what do you think?
Truck yeah. I mean, when you're going to bring forth innovative ideas and new ideas, you're going to have to change the way everybody around that model actually works because nobody accepts new things very easily. Change the shippers, change your side of the business, and then hopefully you get people trying to start copying you.
Wow, Peter, final word?
I'm a big truck yeah on this. Fundamentally believe that ecosystem has to be a part of it. JB Hunt is looking at how do you actually build that ecosystem to support it? And they're a big player that is pushing their customers and their partners to be a part of that ecosystem. We need more companies like JB Hunt to do that.
Fantastic. Some executives think that Uber Freight's technology, which seeks to connect shippers and carriers directly and increasingly automates the process, represents just an incremental move ahead from the average tech-enabled freight brokerage. Wishful thinking or truck yeah? Donnie.
I'm going to go with truck yeah for the biggest reason. All these models about these large companies and these large shippers going to digitalize freight, they're missing one big part of this. The small guy, the owner-operators, the small companies. That's what keeps this other part afloat, and they're not going to.
Peter?
I would say truck yeah as well. One of our customers was actually one of the first carriers to get fully integrated with Uber Freight, and hearing about their experience and what that's done for their business has allowed them to move more freight and keep their trucks moving on a day-to-day basis.
Michael?
Yeah, I'm going to go with truck yeah. I think that it's just an incremental change.
Okay, just an incremental change. And for our final topic of the lightning round, to determine who will be this week's Off the Supply Chain Champion of the Week, some industry experts say that the industry hasn't changed much in the past 10 years. Volume per broker per day, gross margins, and net revenue per load are still the metrics by which brokerage executives measure performance. Wishful thinking or truck yeah, Peter?
I would say it's a little bit of wishful thinking, actually. Fundamentally, American backhaulers was really the last major innovation in freight brokerage. Since then, it's been automating a process that those folks established. What we are seeing is that people...
Donnie!
Wishful thinking. Look, it has changed in the last 10 years. A lot has changed in the last 10 years when it comes to brokering out freight. Now, the way in which we measure these, that may not have changed quite so much. And that's what he's kind of referring to here in this question. So yes, lots of change.
Wishful thinking or truck yeah?
Wishful thinking, absolutely wishful thinking. I think there's going to have to be a lot of evolution into how things are evaluated. Peter's absolutely right. We're still thinking about what made a brokerage successful in the 90s, versus a new way of thinking about throughput fundamentally.
Okay, thank you guys for playing. Our panelists have been wonderful. What a great debate on a topic that is definitely in flux and flow. It'll be fascinating to see what happens in 2020. At the end of our round of off the supply chain, brokering both sides of the equation, it is Michael with 16, Donnie with 20, and Peter with 22. So Peter, congratulations! You are this week's Off the Supply Chain Champion of the Week. We broke your mic. Hey, what are you gonna do with your celebration? How are you gonna celebrate?
Well, you know, I'm doing dry January right now, so I think I might go get some kombucha or something like that and just show off the new bling. Pretty excited about this. This thing's got some weight to it.
Fantastic.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, that's what we like to hear. Great to have you guys on. Thanks again.